Alright guys, in today's video I am going to be going through all of the venues that have officially been listed as part of the 2032 Brisbane Olympic Games and just sort of giving my thoughts on those venues. A lot of these are still somewhat up in the air because we are still 8 years out from the Games. There is potentially a change of government in the state of Queensland, and there is still a lot of water that can go under the bridge. But I did just want to give this update as of August 2024. So the Paris Olympic Games have just finished if you are watching this in the future, and giving my assessment on the stadiums that are scheduled to be part of these Olympic Games. So the current plan for the opening and closing ceremonies is for them to be taking place at the Rugby Stadium, Lang Park, also known as Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. This is a 52,000 seat venue, mainly used for rugby league and rugby union as well as soccer. It was last renovated in around 2003 for the Rugby World Cup. It will be getting another renovation prior to the Brisbane Olympic Games as part of the current plans. And this will be hosting the ceremonies and also the finals of the soccer and rugby sevens events. The athletics at this stage will be held at the Queensland Sports and Athletics Centre, an existing stadium in the southern suburbs of Brisbane, built in 1982 for the Commonwealth Games that were held in Brisbane. This plan was announced several months ago. They did pivot to this stadium instead of rebuilding the Gabba or constructing an entirely new stadium. And the current plan for this stadium is a renovation of the existing stadium. They do want to temporarily increase the capacity to 40,000. It will be a temporary stadium after the Olympics. It will be going back to a capacity of around 14,000. Total cost of this budgeted at $1.6 billion. And we do have the rendering here that was released several weeks ago as I record this. You do see very basic looking stadium, very embarrassing when you compare that to Paris, when you compare that to Los Angeles. It does make these games look very cheap. We do have the Brisbane Convention and Exhibition Centre, an existing venue. This will be hosting some of the minor sports, badminton, fencing, table tennis, taekwondo. We do have several events taking place in the South Bank area, the 3x3 basketball, as well as the archery. The Brisbane Showgrounds, aka the Ekka, will be hosting the equestrian events, that is the horse riding events in the Olympic Games. Now the biggest new project, now that they have scrapped the proposal to renovate the Gabba or build the new stadium in Victoria Park, is going to be the Brisbane Live Arena, a $2.1 billion arena being built on top of or around the Roma Street station in central Brisbane. This will be the main host of the swimming and water polo aquatics events. Total cost, as I said, $2.1 billion. So that will rival some of the most expensive arenas you do see over in the United States. You would think post-Olympics this would be hosting basketball events, concert events. And we do have quite a few renderings of this project. It does look very modern. You do have a nice facade there. Looks like they can light it up in different colors and project sort of images or patterns on top of that. You do obviously have the roof. It does look like it is semi-translucent, not completely translucent, but hopefully that does let in a bit of natural light. You do also have plenty of areas for people to congregate before and after events. And it will be very well intertwined and linked in with the transport network in terms of the train lines, because it is located on top of or right next to Roma Street Station. I did think originally the plan was to build it right on top of the station, but I do think they have revised those plans and shifted it to the side of the existing station. In terms of the roof, potentially it's not translucent, but I do think there will be some windows or something around the concourses to let in a bit of natural light. But looking at the renderings, it doesn't make it quite clear whether the roof is translucent or semi-opaque. We do have Ballymore Stadium, a rugby stadium that is going to be renovated to host the field hockey. Presumably they will be putting down an artificial pitch. I do think it currently has a grass pitch, but obviously for Olympic field hockey you are going to want that artificial AstroTurf style pitch. We do have another new stadium proposed for the basketball events called Brisbane Indoor Sports Centre. Not much information about this stadium. We do have the one rendering. Does look like a modern design, does let in plenty of natural light. It is sort of strange that they would build two decently sized arenas and no new oval-shaped stadium for this event. You don't really think a city of Brisbane needs an arena around 18k that does cost $2 billion, as well as another arena of around 12,000. Interesting decision there. We do have the Sleeman Centre hosting the gymnastics, the track cycling and the BMX racing, as well as the Brisbane Aquatic Centre that is located in the Sleeman Centre that will be hosting the diving and water polo preliminaries, as well as artistic swimming, that is, of course, synchronized swimming. You do have the Brisbane International Shooting Centre, an existing venue in Chandler, to host the shooting. And you do also have the Royal Queensland Golf Club hosting the golf events. That golf course located in Eagle Farm, of course, it is an existing golf course. Golf, a relatively recent addition to the games, but it is kind of interesting to see where they do choose to host the golf. Probably a good decision there. You do have the Brisbane Entertainment Centre. It does already exist. It will be getting a small renovation for the handball. You do have another new stadium to be constructed in Moreton Bay for boxing, that being the Moreton Bay Indoor Sports Centre. You do have the sailing event in the Manly Boat Harbour. You do have a new canoe slalom venue to be built in Redland called the Redland Whitewater Centre. We do have the Queensland Tennis Centre hosting the tennis events. That is an existing facility. Does host the Brisbane International, I think it's called, leading up to the Australian Open. Centre Court has a capacity of around 5,500. There is also some minor courts that can be used for the earlier rounds. We do have the rowing events being held at the Wyalong Flatwater Centre. Forgive me if I have pronounced that wrong. We do have quite a few stadiums on the Gold Coast that will be hosting events. You do have the Gold Coast Convention and Exhibition Centre hosting the volleyball. You also have the Broadbeach Park Stadium, a temporary stadium that will be built for the beach volleyball. You do think of the Gold Coast when you do think of beach volleyball, it does make sense. We've got the judo and the wrestling at the Gold Coast Sports and Leisure Centre, an existing stadium. You do have the triathlon and the open water swimming occurring at Southport. You do have some more volleyball occurring at Coomera Sports Centre. We will be having some soccer events at Robina Stadium, that is Cbus Super Stadium, home of the Gold Coast Titans. We do also have some potential soccer events being held at Carrara Stadium, that is People First Stadium, home of the Gold Coast Suns. And also the cricket to probably be played there. You do think, well, it depends what happens with the Gabba. If the Gabba isn't bulldozed, maybe they do play the cricket there, but it will be in the middle of AFL season. The Olympics happening in around July or August, so maybe there will be some issues there. In terms of the Sunshine Coast, we do have soccer to be held at the Sunshine Coast Stadium. We do have road cycling as well as the marathon events to be held at the Alexandra Headland. That will also hold kiteboarding in the offshore component of that area. And we'll also have the mountain biking being held at the Sunshine Coast Mountain Bike Centre, an existing facility. In terms of other cities hosting the preliminary events for the soccer, we do have Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. We do have Barlow Park in Cairns. It will be renovated into a 20,000 seat venue. And we do also have preliminary soccer games being held at the other two Olympic stadiums in Australia, Stadium Australia in Sydney, and also the Melbourne Cricket Ground. So there will be some issues with the AFL season. I think they're probably going to have to pause the season for around 2 or 3 weeks while these Olympic Games are on. Or you could do what they did in 2000 where they moved the season forward. But those games in Sydney are actually held in September. These ones are being held in July. So they may just pause the season. Same as the NRL probably, because you are going to have some events being held at NRL stadiums. So that's just a brief overview of the stadium situation for the Olympic Games. Obviously a lot of water to go under the bridge. I do expect a lot of these priorities will change in the lead up to the games. We will be putting a big watch on the Queensland state election to be held in October of 2024. I do expect the QSAC plan will be gone before the end of 2024. Maybe I will make an update video at that point. But as of August 2024, this is the current plan for the 2032 Brisbane Olympic Games. That is going to be all we're going to have time for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more.